Start your engines. The Syracuse Nationals rolls into Syracuse, New York, July 18th through the 20th for its 25th anniversary. Experience the largest car show in the Northeast with over 7,000 vehicles. It's 3 days of hot rods, classic cars, live entertainment, and family fun. Mark your calendars and make the Syracuse Nationals part of your summer plans. Buy your tickets, register your ride, and get all the details at SyracuseNationals.com. Syracuse Nationals. It's worth the trip.
Winners get washed.
If I say one negative thing about Adrian Autry, the show ends and we just go to break.
If you want me to take a lie detector, Brian, I'll take it.
I don't like peanut butter.
Anybody that thinks this is going to come back is either naive or plain stupid.
All across CNY.
My name's on this show every freaking day.
It's the 315.
Hardy faking, feeds the Grace Jameson. He scores!
He scores! Woo! Here's Brian Higgins.
Monday, welcome in. How we doing here on this Monday all across CNY, Cuse, Utica, Rome. What's up, Rome? How we doing in Rome on this fine Monday? Q Sports Talk, QSportsTalk.com. We got the YouTube, we got the Twitch, we got the chat. We're all over the place. Come on, hang out on the radio, on your phone, on your computer, playing hooky while at work. All of it. It's all deadly. Get in and join us here on this Monday. On the phone, we can do that as well. 315-437-7644. Our phone line's always operational for chatting with y'all. No Orange Nation this week. But you might have thought that means no McAllister Monday. Alas, my friends, that is where you'd be wrong. We have once again acquired Mike McAllister from the transfer portal to give us a little talk about Fran Brown's recruiting weekend, including his most recent acquisition from earlier this afternoon of the number one punter in the class of 2026. And here on the 315, we celebrate punting and special teams more than anybody else out there. So look forward to having Mike on coming up. That'll be around about 4:30 today. We will have full-on punting conversation. There's a linebacker that signed as well, and all sorts of good stuff that we'll get into throughout the day. See what else Mike thinks Fran has in store for the next couple of weeks coming up as we get into the heart of summer here and closer and closer to the season. So we'll get into that throughout the show today. What a crazy U.S. Open yesterday on the golf course. Wild putt by J.J. Spawn to finish things off in the rain on 18 yesterday. NBA Finals back in action tonight. Stanley Cup could end as soon as tomorrow. And the Red Sox are making weird trades again. Yeah. So that's all happening. That's all happening as we launch into it here on this fine Monday all throughout here in CNY. With all that stated, let's get things going here today.
We start with the Burdick BMW opening drive.
All right, we got the opening drive going on here today, and where else do you think we're going to start today after this weekend, this big recruiting weekend, this June weekend, but with this guy.
It's a Fran Brown countdown.
About to get wild. I know that's winners get wild.
100 days.
I'm getting 100 cups of coffee, starting now.
100 thoughts.
Hey, Fran Brown.
It's a Fran Brown countdown to Syracuse football.
What a win for the franchise. What a year it has been.
It's the final countdown.
Oh, where is the countdown? How many days do we got? We're losing track of days. How many days do we got? 75 days. Oh, we're officially a quarter done with the Fran Brown countdown. Year 2 of counting down to Fran Brown. Yeah. 25 days down, 75 days to go, and no longer a need for a punter coming up next year as Syracuse has secured as officially The announcement made this afternoon, the commitment made over the weekend on his official visit up here. But Syracuse has landed a punter in the class of 2026. His name is Jimmy Gregg. 2 first names. Always suspicious, but he's a punter. Probably electric. Number 1 punter class of 2026. He's from the home of old rival. We haven't played him in a minute. Only in bowl games. He's from Morgantown, West Virginia, the home of West Virginia University. So Syracuse got him out of his hometown. West Virginia was after him. NC State was after him. Purdue was after him. It is a place that Syracuse has gone for high acclaimed special teams before. The Orange got one Patrick Shadle out of Morgantown, West Virginia, around about 20 years ago. Time does fly. And now they go back to Morgantown for the punter in Jimmy Gregg, which I always say this, and I think it is even more so now, and where things are going, house settlement, roster limits, scholarships changing, that I always found it silly. You had 85 scholarships. We always say 3 phases of the game, 85 scholarships, 3 phases of the game. Why are people not using more scholarships on kickers, punters, and long snappers? I always found it bonkers if you didn't have a scholarship kicker or punter or long snapper on your team. And I know it's tricky because everyone wants to play, but if you could pull off 2 scholarship kickers and punters on your team, the more the merrier, I say. Why? Hashtag college kickers. It doesn't often go well with college kickers. If you can get a good one, you might be able to have just in one guy a bigger percentage of difference in your team from other teams in a positive way, just simply by not screwing up special teams. Heck, last year, what a year it was for Fran Brown in year 1. What is the one active change Fran made to his coaching staff in the offseason? Special teams coordinator. That's the one guy that he moved out because it was a grease fire in every phase of special teams, at least for a week or two at some point during the season. Snapping the ball back to the punter, blocking for the punter, snapping the ball to the kicker, blocking for the kicker, covering kicks. I mean, it was a mess in every way it could have been a mess. And now, what have we talked about for a year? Going back to the start of this season, I think. Because at this point last year, we spent the whole lead up to year 1 of Fran Brown being, man, he's saying all the right things. He's doing all the right things. He's never been a head coach before. What's that going to look like? And we saw what it looked like last year. It was mostly good, but there were various issues that popped up along the way. And I think what we, as expected, as there should be, being a head football coach at a D1 level, it's not something you'll wake up knowing how to do in the morning when you've never done it before. You've got to learn on the job a little bit. And Fran did that last year. And one of the best things Fran did last year, in my mind, was not make the same major mistakes multiple times. Aside from special teams, it got cleaned up. It became issues again. A lot of the times, mistakes early in the season did not become mistakes late in the season, which I think was a great sign from Fran and the coaching staff. Now, what do? Not that punter was an issue last year. Jack Stonehouse is an excellent kicker. He just didn't have time to get off kicks a lot of the year when he was getting them blocked left and right early. But what do you realize here? All right, Jack Stonehouse is coming into his likely final year of eligibility, whatever eligibility means in this day and age. His 3rd year with Syracuse anyway. He had the year with Missouri prior. So what are you going to need after that? A punter. Why not go get the best one? What's Fran good at? Recruiting. All right. Let's realize special teams is important. Done. Go get a punter. Done. Now, let's, how about kicker? Let's figure out the whole kicker thing and the blocking thing. Let's figure that out as well. But I'm all for, especially now if this is going to be a 105 scholarship era, let's utilize 5 or more scholarships specifically on special teams. 3 phases of the game. It's a third of the game. Everyone says it. It's as cliched as you'd like. Got to win all 3 phases. Well, Syracuse messed around with the 3rd phase last year, and it cost them several times, and it almost cost them a lot more than that. They had some games they won that realistically they could have lost specifically because of special teams. And now you go out and get a punter. Oh, and boy, does Syracuse have a vaunted history of punting. Where's Riley Dixon? Where's Brendan Carney? Where's Mike Schaefer? Where's all the guys? Where's Sean Reale? Where's all the guys going way, way back? Where's Sterling Hoffrichter? And for this guy to perhaps learn at the mustache of one Jack Stonehouse, what could be better for a wacky punter to learn from? So, some people might say, a punter, what's that? I say a punter, absolutely. Yeah, I get it. You don't want to use your punter. You don't want to punt the ball. But to not be prepared to punt is preparing to fail at punting. And Syracuse has acquired the number one punter in the class of 2026. They've also acquired a guy, Jimmy Gregg, 2 easy-to-pronounce first names. Gregg with 2 G's for the number one punter in the class of 2026. We are now about to butcher somebody's name. Why? Because I have not been able to figure out how to pronounce his name, but Syracuse got a commitment from a linebacker from New Jersey over the weekend. He visited last weekend. He committed this weekend. His name is Jamaus? Jamaus? We're going to ask Mike this at 4:30, see if he knows how to say it. Jamaus? Saki, which is the best part of his name. Gemaus. Not a common name. Not sure how to pronounce it. His last name, though, it could be the perfect football nickname. He's a linebacker who knows how to rush the passer. His last name is Saki. I have no further analysis on his play, his style of play, other than he's a linebacker, he's from New Jersey, and his name starts with Sack. It could be the perfect marriage of name and football position if these things work out well for him going forward. So the total class is up to 18. It was a massive recruiting weekend. Over the weekend in volume, there was 16 guys here visiting this past weekend. Some still here now as it rotated over the weekend. Mike can get us up to date on the details of that in about 20 minutes or so. And then it comes off of Friday's disappointment. Unfortunately, not a surprising disappointment, but when Rochester's 4-star wide receiver Messiah Hampton on Friday, just past noon, announced that he was going to Oregon. So I'll also be intrigued to get Mike's thoughts on this, because the loss of Hampton is, yeah, you would have liked him. No, does missing out on one guy kill you? But I can read into the loss of Hampton twofold. It's bad because you would have liked to secure the number one recruit in New York, a top 100 player, a 4-star wide receiver who's from an hour from here. Getting that guy, good. But let's think about the supposed reason you lost him. I'm sure there was NIL involved. There's always NIL involved. I don't know what the NIL was. But what is the reason that Messiah has been saying out loud is why he went to Oregon? He's saying out loud he went to Oregon because of Ross Douglas. Ross Douglas, the now former Syracuse wide receivers coach. Now, on one hand, bad. You lost a guy because the guy that was recruiting him here was no longer here because he took a significant pay bump to head to the opposite coast and coach for Oregon. On the other hand, it also tells you something I think we've known already, but it tells you that Fran is hiring, for the most part, the right people, because Fran hired Ross Douglas to be his wide receivers coach, who got them, until he left, the inside track on a 4-star wide receiver from just down the road in Rochester. So it's the good or the bad. Like, if Ross hadn't gotten that job at Oregon, he's still here as the wide receivers coach. And, 1 + 1, probably Messiah Hampton's coming to Syracuse because relationships matter, and he got along great with Douglas. Unfortunately, Douglas left for Oregon for what is clearly a pay raise that Syracuse couldn't match. What are the reports out there? Douglas is a wide receivers coach, was making close to $1 million, like $900,000. Like that's a big bag to be the wide receivers coach. So there's the good and the bad on that side of things, right? Like, you lose the guy, but it's the reasons you lose the guy are the reasons in many ways that Syracuse is getting the other guys, because Fran understands the relationship aspect and clearly has hired people that understand it as well. He just happened to lose the one that had the relationship with that guy specifically. And now we'll find out how Syracuse's relationship with Calvin Russell, the 5-star wideout thereafter, will be making his commitment just a little bit more than 2 weeks from now. So we'll see where it all goes. We'll see where it all goes on that side of things. But all in all, a good weekend. A good day so far. Syracuse has gotten the number one punter in the country in Jimmy Gregg, and they've gotten a linebacker whose last name starts with Sack. I've heard you want the sacks on defense. Plus, Syracuse had two, pretty highly regarded pass rushers on campus over the weekend. They were taking pictures together and the whole thing. So it's coming together, this class. 18 strong. You have positional versatility. You have pass rushers. You have pass catchers. You have big guys to beat up the small guys. You got a quarterback. You've got the pieces in there. And, yeah, recruiting. Fran Brown, June. It's our weekly conversation point, which we've never really ever had before the last couple of years. And with that, we'll wrap up our Burdick BMW opening drive for today. Now, to see how the market started here on this Monday, we bring in Bill from Lee Baldwin. All right, Bill, how'd this week get going for you?
We had a nice start to the week with the Dow jumping over 300 points, partly of a rebound on Friday when we sold off pretty sharply as Israel attacked some of Iran's military and nuclear facilities. Tensions seemed to ease today, so markets were up. Oil was down a little. Gold was down a little. A diamond today is going to go with Palantir. This is a AI defense company that does a lot of contracts and software with the government. It was upgraded today. They're also considered for Golden Dome defense system, which Israel has in their country, and the U.S. is looking to create one here. So that stock did well, and it's done very well this year. On the downside, we just basically saw profit taking in a few areas. Energy and defense stocks, Lockheed Martin and Northrop were down 3% today, but overall, real good day.
All right, we're like a good day to start the week, Bill. Thank you as always, Bill from Lee Baldwin. All of the diamonds and none of the dogs. More info as always, LeeBaldwin.com, LeeBaldwin.com. Phone lines open next, 315-437-7644. If you'd like to chime in on a Monday. U.S. Open finish yesterday was wild, huh? Little rain. Man, it hurt some people, helped out others. That was a crazy, crazy finish. And how about a win for a guy that many of us hadn't heard of a lot before this week, J.J. Spawn, rolling it in from 65 feet out to secure the win on 18 yesterday. We'll get to that. Mike McAllister, 4:30, and much more after that on a Monday as we get our week going here on Q Sports Talk and ESPN Radio. Oh, what is up? Chat. Yes, Cody will be back as we approach football season. I thought he was going to be back today, but he was here today. But then he was leaving because he was done for the day. Yes, Jordan could just barricade himself in the studio. And he knows how the button works. So I don't know what we'd do about it if that happens. There you go, Kev. Yeah, it does have a nice Say as Stewart-ish vibe to it, Q's Vegas, right? Next week, T. Murphy, or this week? No Orange Nation this week. Orange Nation is back next week. Paulie on vacation. Jordan back from vacation. Brian on vacation in a few weeks. Not this week, T. Murphy. Orange Nation back next week. Cody back in August sometime. Orange Nation back Monday, June the 23rd. In the next break, T. Murphy will have a nice little graphic on the side of the screen that has it. But right now, may I suggest you enjoy a refreshing Lipton hard iced tea. Why are there so many chairs in this studio? Hang on, I need to rearrange the chairs. The chairs are out of pocket right now. Yeah, the way that works, Phil, is when you subscribe through Amazon for free, it makes you do it every month. And it's like a pain in the butt to do it the first time, but once you've got your account hooked up, you should just have to click the little box that says renew your Prime subscription. But yes, you cannot automate that. It makes you redo it every month, though it remains free every month. Oh, it'd be fantastic if the people that brought extra chairs in the studio would put the chairs back when they were done. I saw that, Ryan. I'm just what a moment they've all been able to reach a hot dog eating accord. He did, Kev. Yes, we fired Cody Govinda. We fired him good. The Sports Show with Cody Mack will be back for football season. What's this? What do we got here? A Reggie Thorpe introductory press conference Wednesday, June 18th at 3. Will we get to talk to Reggie Thorpe after that press conference or the next day?
All across CNY, it's the 315. Here's Brian Higgins.
All right, back here on this, it's still Monday, 315-437-7644, and that remains the phone number. This information just in, Reggie Thorpe, who was announced a little more than a week ago, at this point is the new women's lacrosse head coach for Syracuse, taking over for Kayla Trainer. It was a decade-long assistant under Gary Gate. Prior to that, his introductory press conference will be Wednesday in the afternoon, so we'll be able to get you some of that after it happens, and hopefully we'll be able to get Reggie on the show sometime later this week now that the details have been sorting out about his intro press conference. Hopefully we'll get Reggie on to chat later this week at some point. Good dude, Reggie. Haven't crossed paths with him since he left Syracuse after his assistant tenure here, but great guy. Hopefully we'll get him on the program later on this week at some point. Okay, with that, as mentioned, phone lines are open, and that is where we find Scooter. What's going on, Scooter?
Well, the first race tomorrow that Scott, that you can watch it on FanDuel, maybe BBC, 9 o'clock in the morning. Your horse, the Carl Spangler is running. He's number 2. He's 15-1 more line. So
okay, I need to remember my top hat for tomorrow then.
Yeah, Japanese. It's funny. Japanese owner, Australia trainer. I'm not sure who the driver or the rider is. So we got some international flavor on your horse now.
Okay, we like that. Very cultured. We're out there in the world getting cultured.
Yeah. Yeah, and then hopefully he comes back to Saratoga and maybe runs the United States, but it doesn't sound like that's his main goal anymore, so got to keep an eye on him. I have an idea to submit since you won with the Coach Boeheim rant.
Yes.
How about the two? And it's not just a 10-minute thing; it's a whole 2-hour show when you're trying to get the podcast about Anthony choosing Syracuse. I mean, that was interesting. You got to admit that, right? I mean, you spent more time on the dump button than you did, I think, in the actual show.
That's true. Could we win an award for airing somebody else's podcast but bleeping it repeatedly? That could be next level, Scooter. I don't know if there's a category for that, but we will have to investigate because that could be next level of me complaining about all of the Anthony family swearing out loud while just trying to find out if his son's coming to Syracuse.
Well, the two things I remember about it was because I haven't heard it since my mother probably said 30, 40 years ago. You said potty mouth. And I thought that was pretty funny. Then you thought it was safe when Anthony's mother came on.
No, Lala was.
First word. I go, well, you go, well, that didn't work out too good.
No, like literally first word was dropping an F-bomb. Like, man, Lala, you didn't even wait. Like, it was aggressive. It was just needlessly aggressive.
I mean, if you can't win on that, then I don't know. I mean, that was, I guess it wasn't must-hear radio because you couldn't hear anything. 'Cause you must have had that button, the eject button, just keep your thumb on that thing for the whole 2 hours because that was interesting. That was an interesting show. Maybe just submit that. And, maybe you'll win another commercial award for Pawn Stars or something.
Yeah, it makes me wonder how Mello's going to do on NBC because, man, they swear a lot on that show. He's going to have to realize the internal mental difference between podcasting and network TV for the amount of swear words, which is unlimited versus zero. So we'll see how he does with that.
Well, I tell you, you come a long ways. I got a friend who's still in business, but he was actually a commercial award winner, but he's out of the canine waste removal. And this is in the 90s where he went to Channel 9 to have a commercial produced for TV. And he's actually a number 1 and number 2 business. And he had a phone number. If you go 3636, it was doo-doo. I guess you can say doo-doo on the radio, right?
Yeah.
They wouldn't produce the commercial because they said you can't use doo-doo.
You can't use doo-doo.
He said, yeah. And they said, well, that's part of the thing. It's the phone number, doo-doo. So they went hemming and hawing, and they finally got the okay from management. And he ends up winning an award. They ended up winning an award just like the New York State Award for the best commercial or something like that. But I couldn't believe you couldn't say doo-doo back in. They're worried about that in 97, 98. But
I said, I'm looking at my phone pad now. It's a good thing you didn't do 7448. That would be a number you definitely can't say on the radio.
I tell you, stuff like that. But like I said, that just don't let Paulie go up there with a Pawn Star thing. Maybe invite him for the dinner, but don't have him accept it, or else he might get kicked off again. No,
you never know. You never know how these things go. All right, Scoot, thanks for the call.
Right, Brian. Thanks,
as always. All right, let's hit a break. Phone lines will be open again later in the show. Mike McAllister next. Talk about Fran Brown's big weekend, or for Fran, just a normal weekend for Fran Brown. Lots of thoughts from Mike coming next year on Q Sports Talk and ESPN Radio.
Evan Kent.
Oh, did you like my number spelling, though? That's on the fly. Hey, you all have the phone number. Everyone out there has the phone number. Scooter just opts to use it more often than most. Yeah, we're just going to call Scooter and turn him on. Hey, Scooter is Scooter. Oh, we could never lose our love for you, chat. Oh, it can get worse than Freddie and Harry. Have you heard their other shows? I actually like Freddie and Harry compared to a lot of their other stuff. I did, Kev. Max made me a breakfast sandwich for breakfast. Or made me and brought it up, breakfast in bed, and then he ate it all. I think I got a bite. So that was okay. What did you get? How was the restaurant Friday, Kev? Did you get in the place you were trying to go? We built a Lego airport. Because we had Max's birthday party on Saturday, so we had many presents. We made some crystals from a science kit. $50? Well, $50 no resi on a Friday. Because they wouldn't let you get a resi, right? That's not terrible. I mean, it's long, but all things considered, not terrible. Did you get the poutine fries, whatever Gavendo was talking about? Better than possibilities, probably. Yeah, it's long, but...
All across CNY, it's the 315. Here's Brian Higgins.
All right, back at it here on this Monday. And if we know anything, like Fridays and Mondays in June for the last couple of years are just like flat out reserved for recruiting talk because recruiting's going to be happening. We know that Fran Brown's going to have people on campus. People will be proclaiming their allegiance to Fran Brown. And since there was no Orange Nation today, we just stole McAllister Monday. We moved McAllister Monday to 4:30. What's going on, Mike?
Not too much, Brian. How are you?
Oh, doing well. I don't know if I'm doing as well as Fran here is doing the last few weeks with all these guys on campus. And we know I love punting, and I love good punting. So this Jimmy Gregg guy seems to be a pretty good get for Fran earlier today.
Yeah, the number one punter in the 2026 recruiting class. I think he averaged about 43 yards a punt last year at the as a junior in high school. So not a lot of high school punters that are averaging over 40 yards a punt, which I think is a good sign. And he's from Morgantown, West Virginia. West Virginia offered, and he still picked Syracuse. So that's always a cool thing when you can stick it to the Mountaineers a little bit. And there were quite a few Mountaineer fans in my mentions after this happened, seemingly having a hard time coping mentally with losing a punter recruit, which was odd to me that they were that angry about it, but they were. So it's almost too bad that they don't get to play each other so that he couldn't do some crazy Riley Dixon fake punting nonsense against West Virginia and Morgantown. That'd be pretty fun.
That would be fun. I mean, for way back in the day, I said this earlier, like Patrick Shadle, Syracuse's kicker in the G-Rob era, was a Morgantown guy, and he was a great kicker. Unfortunately, he was the kicker, when in the G-Rob era, so he didn't really get to take a lot of very important kicks in his career, but cool that this guy's coming here. They'll be burning couches in disappointment tonight in Morgantown. I'd say the main thing that stands out about this to me is not that they got the number one punter. It's more that, like, the special teams last year, and this wasn't Jack Stonehouse's fault, but the special teams was a mess last year. And now you see in this offseason, Fran has changed the special teams coordinator and signed the number one punter. I like that he saw an area that was a grease fire last year, and he made immediate moves to correct it.
And brought in a kicker from the transfer portal as well. So,
right.
yeah, that's a pretty big deal. And the special teams coordinator that they brought in, Brumfeld, he's very highly respected as a special teams coordinator, and I'm not sure Syracuse gets the number one punter in the class without him being on staff. So they might have, it's certainly possible. The recruitment did start before that, but that certainly played a large part in why this happened. And I think it speaks a lot to Fran. We saw this kind of during the season, right? That one week they'd have a major issue, and then the next week that would seem to be cleared up, and maybe something else pops up, and then the week after that seemed to be significantly improved. So one thing I'd noticed from him, among many other things, is that he's very good at identifying a weakness and then quickly working to correct it. He doesn't just sort of let things play out, but he goes all in on trying to fix it as quickly as possible.
Yeah, you could tell, especially on the special team stuff, like when they screwed it up multiple times, like all right, one mistake is one thing, right? When it gets screwed up multiple times, he was losing his mind. Like, are you kidding me? Like, we tried to fix this. He just doesn't accept things being screwed up more than once.
No, he didn't accept it when they did the first quad walk, and it wasn't exactly the way he wanted. And he made comments to that point right away, and that just tells you the D in Dart is detailed for a reason, and he is every bit the embodiment of that.
Yeah, it's the first letter in the Dart. You got to get the first letter right before you move on to it. All right, I'm going to butcher this guy's name. Do you know how to say the first name of Syracuse's other verbal this weekend, Mr. Sackey, the linebacker from New Jersey?
I think it's Jameis, but I'm not 100% sure. I think so.
That sounds nicer than any of the ways I tried. That actually sounds like a name. So let's go with Jameis. That I like the ring of that.
Here's the thing. You have a linebacker whose job it is to get into the backfield, whose name is Sackey. I mean, it's perfect. It's like when, you've got a football player named Scott Player. I mean, it's like it just works. Or I don't know that I can't remember if he actually ended up kicking for the Eagles. There was a punter whose last name was Feagles. I mean, sometimes these things they just work out. So when you've got a defensive player whose job it is to get into the backfield, whose last name is Sackey, you're hoping that works out for his namesake. But really talented kid from New Jersey. I think his recruitment was largely under the radar and was just starting to blow up, and had been on Syracuse's radar for a while. And they got him up on an official and were able to seal the deal, I think, before he had a bunch of other Power 4 schools getting in the mix and clouding things a little bit. But, yeah, he's a talented kid, very athletic, as most linebacker recruits do coming out of high school, save for Antoine Delorier, who went viral with his pictures. Mm-hmm. But most have to put on some weight and some strength to their frame to fill out a little bit. And that's certainly the case with him. But a lot of upside, a lot of potential there. No doubt about that.
The Sackey name, it's just it's built in. It's like the opposite of the old pit kicker Chris Blewett. Like he's got a much better name when it comes to that. The news from last Friday, it was not altogether unexpected, right? You're hoping for like a last minute switch, but Messiah Hampton, the 4-star wideout from Rochester, picking Oregon and sticking with his original Syracuse recruiter in Ross Douglas. What do you make of how that all went down with Hampton heading to the West Coast?
Yeah, I mean, whenever you put that much work into a 4-star player who's, kind of, I wouldn't say in your backyard, but backyard adjacent, we'll say, and he's the number one player in your home state, we know how much of a priority that Fran has put on recruiting in New York, and certainly you'd rather have that guy than lose that guy. But here's the bottom line. Syracuse was in a top 7 with Oregon, Miami, Ohio State, and several others, Georgia, Penn State. And Syracuse finished second and got an official visit the weekend he was supposed to go take an official to Ohio State, and he came to Syracuse instead. I think in years past, Syracuse might have made the top 7 as a token, but weren't really in the recruitment. They were really in the recruitment. And I honestly think, this is just my impression of it, no one has told me this specifically, but if Syracuse had been able to keep Ross Douglas for another year, I think Messiah Hampton's here. The fact that they had Ross Douglas last year hurt them in this recruitment, because last year he developed that strong relationship with Messiah Hampton. So then when he leaves and goes to Oregon, that relationship's already there. And so that bond that he built while recruiting him to Syracuse ends up biting Syracuse a little bit in this recruitment. But here's the other silver lining to it. There's 6 months till signing day. A lot of things could happen. He could go to Oregon. Oregon could have a great year. And as soon as the season ends, an NFL team could throw a bunch of money at him to say, come be our offensive coordinator, and he leaves. And that's before signing day or maybe shortly after signing day. And Messiah says, you know what, I want to reopen things and take another look at some other options, and Syracuse would be there. So, yeah, tough situation, no doubt, but the fact that Syracuse is in conversations like with Messiah Hampton or like a 5-star wide receiver in Calvin Russell, that tells you how far Syracuse has come, and not only just that they're in the discussions, but that Syracuse fans are legitimately disappointed when they don't get those players.
Yeah, I mean, in the past, it was always just, token. Oh, he's from New York. Throw him a little token, if anything. Obviously, it stinks when you don't get a guy like that because you're going hard for him. It does tell you, though, like, it tells you, like, the reason he went there that you said about Ross Douglas. It tells you that Fran seems on it, right, with who he's hiring assistant-wise for recruiting, that, like, he had a Ross Douglas or these other guys on his staff that are, I guess, capable of making those relationships with top guys.
Yeah, there's no question about that. I think what we've seen from Fran in terms of his ability to hire assistant coaches is that he's good at identifying coaching talent, just like he's good at identifying on-field talent, and that his relationships and ability to develop relationships is part of the reason why he's able to get some of these highly respected coaches to come to Syracuse. And you think about Douglas, I mean, he was someone that was very highly respected in the NFL that Bill Belichick wanted on staff. And he was able to talk that guy who was in the NFL to leave the NFL and come be at Syracuse. I mean, that's a pretty impressive recruiting job, So it's not just recruiting talent on the field; it's also his ability to recruit coaching talent. And the wide receivers had an outstanding year last year, so clearly Ross Douglas is pretty good at that part of it, in addition to his recruiting acumen. And yeah, it stinks not getting Messiah Hampton, no doubt. But I think largely when you look at the big picture, you're still seeing positives in terms of the direction of the program and where things are headed.
All right, you mentioned Calvin Russell. He's the 5-star guy the Orange are shooting for, who's committing, in about 2.5, 3 weeks from now. What did I see? He was just down at Miami for another visit. That's where his parents went to school. What are you making of that? Does Syracuse have a shot here, or is this going to be like, okay, you're third or fourth, but it's impossible to pass these Florida schools?
Not impossible, certainly difficult, but Syracuse certainly is one of the schools that has a realistic shot to land his commitment going into the announcement. Now, I ultimately think that LSU and Miami, or at least LSU as of right now, probably out in front a little bit, but there's also 2.5 weeks left, and Fran Brown's, I would imagine, him and the staff are going to be talking to Calvin Russell and or Calvin Russell's family on a daily basis between now and then, so you never know how that's going to work out. The other thing is, Syracuse didn't get an official visit this summer. You might originally look at that and say, well, you're not going to get him when he announces on July 5th. You should have got him up for an official visit. Maybe you could have, made your pitch, etc. The silver lining to that is, if he commits to you without taking an official, that's fantastic, because he's already taken officials to all these other schools. The other part of it is, if he commits to LSU, if he commits to Miami, and he hasn't taken an official there to your school, you can continue that relationship for the next 6 months until National Signing Day, and then try to talk him into coming up and taking a visit right before National Signing Day and flipping him at that point, as opposed to him committing to Syracuse now, and since Miami's right down the road, doesn't have to take an official to go visit Miami and spend a couple of days there. Miami trying to do that exact same thing. So it gives you that option in your back pocket if that's something that Calvin Russell would be open to after he makes his commitment, if it's not the Syracuse. But again, the fact that you're in the discussion for a five-star wide receiver who visited Syracuse several times between last fall and the spring this year, again, just positive in terms of the direction of the program, and I think it's only a matter of time before they start landing some of these types of players.
Mike McAllister with us here, breaking down another big official visit weekend here for Syracuse. You had 16 total guys either coming up or still here now. Mike, any of them specifically that you got your eye on is like, oh, okay, they may be close to making a decision here?
Well, I'll give you this. There's two players who weren't on that list who actually did visit recently or visited this weekend that were, I won't say off the radar, but they were not visitors I was able to report at the time, we'll say. So one is Chase, I think his last name is pronounced Jeter, but it's with a G, who's a defensive back from Virginia. The other is Corday Houston, who's a defensive lineman from Texas. Houston is one I'm keeping an eye on. He's got a very impressive offer list when you start looking. He's got the Texas A&Ms and the Houstons and those types of schools, but was at Syracuse this past weekend, was at California the weekend before. I haven't seen any other official visits scheduled for him, so it wouldn't surprise me if there was some sort of decision in the near future there. That's someone I'm keeping an eye on. And then the tight end from Philly, Carter Bashir, is another one I'm keeping an eye on. Just because he's from Philly, we know that Fran has that connection with New Jersey, but he's also got that connection with the Philly area. And an athletic tight end from Philly where, Syracuse is the big Power 4 offer that he's got. It kind of makes a lot of sense for both sides. So that's something that I'm keeping an eye on. Those are kind of the two main ones. But then Jude Okaleke from Connecticut, defensive lineman, he visited, and that went extremely well. When I interviewed him, he kept mentioning how Syracuse is like a family. Probably said it about 10 to 15 times during the interview. And Syracuse made a huge impression on him. He was still trying to figure out whether or not he wanted to take another visit this coming weekend, and he had schools like Cincinnati, Boston College, Virginia among those trying to get him on campus. Still was trying to decide whether or not he was going to take that, but is looking at a decision potentially as early as early July. So he's another one that we're keeping an eye on in the near future.
Okay, there's a good name to watch. And I'd say, about half-ish the guys that were here this last weekend are previous verbals that were just, cementing things with their official visit. You look at the four-star guy, Jarius Rogers. He's an edge rusher from Florida. Cameron Wilson, he's an edge rusher from Miami, a three-star guy. I saw them. They were both taking pictures with DN coach Nick Williams on Instagram and all that stuff. Nick's never shy of a photo like that. When you look at those two, the fact that, it's not just four-star guys. It's not that you land the occasional wideout or something. To get a four-star edge rusher, that's not a thing right around here. That's not anything that's happened before around here. What does it say? You got two big-time pass rushers coming in the class.
Not just pass rushers, but pass rushers from Florida.
Right.
That a bunch of other Power 4 schools, including Florida schools, really wanted. When Cameron Wilson committed, a lot of people in the recruiting world thought that he was a lock to go to Florida State. They were the school that were considered the leader for him, and then he comes up and visits for an unofficial and commits, and everyone was like, well, where did that come from? Nobody saw that coming. Everyone kind of thought he was going to go to Florida State. And even after he committed, I think a lot of people said, Florida State really wants him. They'll still end up getting him. And yet here he is, and I know he took an official visit to Nebraska, and there were some rumblings that he was going to flip to Nebraska, but he told me he's fully locked into Syracuse. Jarius Rogers, I think the thought is the same thing. But two talented edge rushers, the more you can have of those in modern football, the better. But That's big time. And that was kind of the biggest thing really missing from the last year's football team was, yeah, they had Fidel Diggs, but they didn't really have much in terms of pure pass rushing outside of that. And they got some young guys, King Joseph Edwards, Caden Brown, a couple others I think they think could be that at some point. But you start developing those, and then you start bringing in these young guys that can, contribute right away, but don't have to be relied upon right away, to sort of develop for a year or two and give you that depth and that competition and be the next man up when the other guys move on. That's exactly what Fran Brown is trying to build, and it's clear that from his time in Georgia, he can see how much rushing the passer can have an impact on the rest of your defense.
Yeah, and we know this. It's great to get skill guys. 7-on-7s, there's a lot of skill guys out there. Not as many guys that go get the quarterback, so to get two of them like that here on the same weekend, a good thing. All right, Mike, last thing for you as we sit here on Monday. What are you expecting to be putting out later this week? What names should we have our eye on that you think will probably be here this upcoming weekend?
That's the biggest question. It's kind of been the biggest mystery weekend of June. When players were announcing kind of in April and May and everything else that they were going to be visiting, that was the weekend where there wasn't a lot of traction. Now, we do know that there's supposed to be a kicker named Shea Barker from Pennsylvania that is supposed to be coming up. So more special team stuff going on. What's interesting is they were supposed to have the number one kicker in the class coming up with the number one punter in the class this past weekend, but that kicker committed to Georgia prior to his Syracuse trip. And so it looks like the Shea Barker kid from Pennsylvania is kind of next man up in the kicking world in terms of the recruitment. So he's potentially coming up this coming weekend. And then the other one that I'm keeping a close eye on is Tadarius Hughes, a defensive back from Florida. He was originally supposed to visit Syracuse a couple weeks ago. He's currently committed to Florida State. And, when I put out the visitor list and I checked with him and said, hey, you still coming up to Syracuse? I think it was for the weekend of the 6th. He said, no, I'm not. I won't be there this weekend. I asked him, have you rescheduled it? Will you be here a different week, or are you not visiting at all? And I got no response. And so someone, not me, at 24/7 Sports, I'm guessing probably our Florida State writer, has added June 20th as an official visit date for him to Syracuse. So I'm keeping an eye on that. We'll wait and see later in the week if that becomes an official thing, that he's actually coming up here. But it looks like there's the potential that he could come up and visit, and that would make, I believe, the third Florida State commit that would have taken an official visit to Syracuse during the month of June.
All right, we like that. Ruffle the cages down in Tallahassee. That's fun for Syracuse. That's not, Mike. That's not normal, right? We're not used to this. We're a year and a half in. I still can't get a full grasp of what's going on here.
I mean, you go from the off season before, when you got Ohio State's quarterback and Texas A&M's best pass rusher, and some of the other guys they brought in, to grabbing several 4-stars. This year, you've had a top 25 recruiting class for nearly the entire recruiting cycle. You've got 3, 4 4-stars, depending on what service you're looking at, in your 2026 recruiting class. Several, all of which several other Power 4 schools, including some that are considered blue blood type programs, want and are after and are actively trying to flip. You got the number one punter in the class. I mean, it's different. It's different for me too. Like, I'm not used to texting with 5-star recruits that seriously have a chance of coming to Syracuse. Usually it's, oh yeah, I got a Syracuse offer. Okay, I'll interview him once and then I'll never hear from him again. I texted with Calvin Russell for several months, and that's weird and different. And, honestly, it's a lot of fun covering these things, and it's a shift not only from the mindset of what we do in the media, but I think from fans as well. If you're starting to get into covering recruiting and you see Syracuse commits like Javion Cooper, Cameron Wilson, Jarius Rogers, they're high-profile guys. Even Jackson Gates, who was a defensive back from California who committed really early and is kind of a high 3, borderline 4-star prospect. He's taken visits to other places like Michigan State very recently. Having players of that caliber means even if they're committed to you, they're probably still going to take visits other places. That's what happens. And so that's why you got Florida State commits coming up and visiting Syracuse. When you have coveted prospects this is what happens. And so it's a shift in terms of Syracuse fans and their mindset and how they view these recruits, and try not to get upset when you see Syracuse commits visiting other places, and ultimately putting your faith that Fran Brown's going to figure it out and make everything work.
Yeah, more fun when you're hanging out with this kind of group and seeing how it goes this way. All right, Mike, always good stuff. We'll be watching throughout the week to see what Fran's got up his sleeves next, but thanks a lot.
All right, I appreciate it.
All right, there he is, our guy Mike McAllister, 24/7 Sports, and yeah, June a lot busier in Mike's world than it used to be. That is for darn sure. All right, we'll take a break. Phone lines open the rest of the way here in this hour, brought to you by William Mattar, 315-437-7644. Give you a ring. Back next, Q Sports Talk, ESPN Radio. Yes, we like having Mike. It is hard to keep track of all those names and recruits. It's just a bunch of names, and he keeps track of it. Barry Sanders had a heart attack? It's a job, Kev. It's a job for Mike. Was a no-hitter in the College World Series? Yeah, who was that? Who said he was a lock? Somebody said that like Friday. Who was that? I forgot already. Yeah. Barry Sanders had a heart attack last year. Barry Sanders is the star of a new A&E documentary, The Making of a Heart Attack, which debuted this past weekend. Oh. I think he's having fun. Yes, they are, T. Murphy. I'm just, who the hell was it? Who said that? Who said that? I forget who said that. Reveal yourself, person who said that. Who the heck said that last week? Can't scroll the chat back till Friday. Yeah, somebody in the chat was at the Fran Brown golf soiree on Monday and said that Fran told them that Russell's a lock. So it's well-sourced and flawless. Nothing to worry about. Had some strawberry shortcake yesterday. Max yesterday grabbed the whipped cream off a strawberry shortcake, which he thought was mine, and then found out it was his mom's. Oops. And then just... Strawberry inflation? The amount I spend in a given week on... No, Christina made, like, biscuits. Max doesn't like strawberries, so he says. So he was just trying to get after the whipped cream while eating a piece of ice cream cake already from his birthday from the day before. There's a lot going on. There was a lot going on. His face was like blue from the ice cream cake and then whipped cream. All right, back at it here on this Monday, 315-437-7644. Phone lines open rest of the way. Good to chat with Mike McAllister there. Put a wrap on the recruiting weekend. A little preview of the upcoming weekend, Fran Brown style. We do get chatty, though. It does take a minute. We're already at 5 o'clock here, so we got to get to break here shortly. But not before I remind you that we are within spitting distance of the Napa Auto Parts Syracuse Nationals. We're like right on a month away. Today is the 16th of June. The next month is July on the calendar. The Syracuse Nationals starts on July 18th. So we're 1 month and 2 days away from the Napa Auto Parts Syracuse Nationals at the New York State Fairgrounds, all presented by McGuire Family of Dealerships and Sweetgrass. Why do we need all those sponsors on it? Because it's not some rinky-dink car show. There's not like 4 cars sitting there. No, it's the largest car show in all the Northeast. It's more than 7,000 vehicles, 250 vendors. Get your tickets at SyracuseNationals.com. Good news, if you're 12 or under, you're free. Your parents, though, will need some tickets, so they better order them up. The event is 1 month and 2 days from this day right here. With that, we'll take a break. Hour 2 next. Phone lines open, 315-437-7644. U.S. Open yesterday. NBA Finals tonight. Stanley Cup could wrap up tomorrow. The Red Sox are just, I don't know what they're just making kooky trades. All that in the second hour in your calls. We're back after this here on Q Sports Talk and ESPN Radio.
This.
I had my shortcake later, Kev. Got to strategically wait till the whipped cream thieves are no longer in range. I don't know what the Sox are doing. The Sox are acting like they're a small market franchise when they're a giant, massive organization. I could almost argue for trading him because he's being whiny, except he's still their best hitter. And after the Mookie Betts trade, they'd no, sorry. Like you want a decade of Manny doing crazy stuff. You never got rid of him. You just let him rake. Let the dude rake. Let the man rake. A cancer? Maybe, but he was a locker room cancer. They've won 5 in a row. How cancerous was the cancer? It's just weird timing. You sweep the Yankees, and then sweep complete. Let's trade the best player. Oops. Yeah, I've just lost any faith of the Red Sox to make prudent decisions. After the Mookie thing, like, you've lost all benefit of the doubt. You've lost it all. What, from the Giants they got, Kev? It does, yeah, the list I've read, it's not overwhelming, though, like the players they got. I mean, what they got is they got out of all of the money. Like, the Giants took the whole contract. It doesn't sound like they got a very good haul. Like, they won 108 games. I realize it's now 7 years ago, but like a historically dominant team. And then you're like, yeah, keep those guys, pay those guys. That's ridiculous. I get it. I get it. Because a shilling, it's a coin, but it's also a curt. I get it. I get it.
Can we review our status here, Si? Let's look at this thing from a standpoint of status.
Can't go backwards. Can't go forward. What am I gonna do?
Hey, what happened? Lisa, if you don't like your job, you don't strike. You just go in every day and do it really half-assed. That's the American way.
I hope it's happy hour.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
This is a great day. A really great day.
All across CNY, it's the 315 with Brian Higgins. Halfway home, we drive into the second hour with Burdick BMW.
That we do. Hour 2 upon us. Phone lines open and available. 315-437-7644. If you'd like to chime in on this here lovely Monday all throughout CNY. What have we done so far? Fran Brown. That's most of what we've done so far. The big Cruton weekend for Fran Brown. The man has gotten a verbal commit from the number 1 punter in all of the United States of America in the class of 2026. And as a person that celebrates all 3 phases of football, including, but especially, the special teams, we must, at the School of Punting, celebrate the number 1 punter in all of America, making his declaration known that he will be a future Syracuse Orange coming up in a year's time, and hopefully continuing the strong and long legacy, lineage of Syracuse punters. Yes. With that, we arrive at hour 2, and we've been doing this a lot recently. All right, what is grabbing our attention? The NBA Finals, Game 5 tonight. You can hear it here on ESPN Radio. The Stanley Cup Finals, the potentially final game of the Cup, Game 6, tomorrow night down in Sunrise, Florida, where the Cup will be in the building as the Panthers look to go back-to-back. Could 2 Florida teams go back-to-back within the span of the same half-decade? And that's kind of wild. The Lightning went back-to-back. They almost won 3 in a row. Now the Panthers are trying to accomplish it. It was 97 degrees in Sunrise, Florida, the day they were playing a hockey game there the other day. It's hard to compute because the ice needs it to be colder. And then yesterday, golf entered the chat. We had the final round, as it always is on Father's Day, of the United States Open Championships. And then they had the hour-plus weather delay where NBC pulled that trigger quick yesterday, did they not? They're like, what? Raining, delay. Here's Tiger Woods. They waited like the players hadn't even like marked their balls yet. What? Weather delay. Here is the 2008 United States Open third round. What? Third round? Yeah, Tiger Woods. Here's Tiger Woods. They're like, wait, you think we're going to show you more JJ spot? Tiger Woods. We found Tiger. Well, look at this Tiger Woods. I'm like, I'll look at Tiger Woods. Yeah, yeah, okay, yeah. Some of the most famous shots of his, the putt and the double fist ball. Right, I'll watch. I twist my arm. I'll watch Tiger Woods. But man, what a putt by JJ Spawn on 18. Like it's raining. The umbrellas are up. There's a guy that nobody's ever heard of before. You know, he's almost tin cup. Not quite, but he's out there with a putt. He needed 2 putts to win the Open Championship. He's 65 feet away from the cup. He got the line from Victor Hovland, and the dude just rolled it in. It was unbelievable. Like, he would have had to have a reasonably significant screw-up not to win at that point. Not that it's easy to 2-putt from that distance. Didn't need to make it, and then he just yammed it in there. It was really impressive and a really cool moment to see him do it yesterday, and just a bizarre final round. The weather delay happened. It looked like the whole final group got completely thrown on its head after the weather delay. Sam Burns and Adam Scott both just completely imploded. Like, after the weather delay, Adam Scott couldn't hit the ball anything but directly into the rough. He was just directly into the rough. And everyone's imploding. At one point, I think there was a 5 or 6-way tie at 1 over par. But cool moment to see Spawn win it, and win it in style, man. Like, he's now on, like, that putt ending essentially the U.S. Open. Like, he's on every highlight reel for the rest of the time with that thing. So who knows if he'll ever have another moment that remotely approaches it in the rest of his career, because he had never had one prior to that. But really cool moment for him yesterday. But it leads us back to our other 2 championship events going on simultaneously. NBA Finals tonight, Stanley Cup Finals tomorrow. I've been trying to pick between one to focus my attentions on. Instead, I've gone the other way, and I'm just tired because I keep watching all of both of them. I still think overall, because of the first 4 games, and 3 of the games specifically, games 1, 2, and 4, the Stanley Cup Finals at the moment has the edge on the NBA Finals, because the 3 overtime games, 2 of them got sent to overtime in the waning moments, but Game 5 Stanley Cup Finals, butt kicking. Game 3 Stanley Cup Finals, butt kicking, both in favor of Florida. If tomorrow's a butt kicking in favor of Florida, and they win the cup and there's 3 butt kickings, I don't know. Meanwhile, the NBA Finals, all of a sudden, here they come, trying to track down the Stanley Cup Finals with just a wild finals where you just don't know what's going to happen. We went into this finals, I was certain of what was going to happen. Thunder in 5, maybe a sweep. I was certain of it. And then you got to Game 4, watching that on Friday night, and the Pacers had the lead. The Pacers are up like 9. Like, wait a minute. The Pacers were kind of lucky to be 1-1, and then they proved to be the better team in Game 3. And I'm like, wait, they're the better team again. Then all of a sudden, the Thunder closed the game on, what was it, 15-1, 16-1, something like that. Run, stole the game, covered on top of it, and head back to Oklahoma City tonight in the all-important Game 5 series tied at 2 games apiece. And frankly, I've given up. I have zero clue what to expect in this anymore. Thunder were the best team in the first 2 games. It was a split. The Pacers were the best team in the second 2 games. It was a split. I got zero clue what to expect anymore from this series, other than in 2 series that wasn't really into it. Hadn't really been watching the hockey. The basketball's like, what's happening in this playoffs? The favorites are getting upset in the East, and injuries, and Tatum, and all this stuff. Now they both got me. They both got me. Hockey could be over as soon as tomorrow, and you can look at basketball, a massive game tonight, which, of course, pregame starting at 7:30, you can hear right here on this very ESPN radio station. With that, we'll take a break. Couple of massive trades over the weekend. The Red Sox doing, I don't even know what they're, are they a major market organization? Do they remember that they have fat stacks of cash, and I don't know what they're doing. And then In the NBA, it's now just like, hey, you want like all my first-round picks forever? Who are you going to get? He's pretty good. Figure out these two wacky trades that happened over the weekend and your calls. 315-437-7644 for ESPN 44. Back next, Q Sports Talk, ESPN Radio.
ESPN.
Oh, yeah. Scott Foster is always good for evening up a series. I may have Tronic. That's a good point. Did I not say pivotal? It's problematic. It is a very pivotal Game 5 tonight. Gumby did? That was well timed. How did you know that? Mike McAllister, if that's your real name. They were saying some just incredibly rude things about you, Mike. I'd watch out for this group. That's a hell of a win for a guy that didn't even win. A well-timed cash out. That good, huh, Kev? I'm very on the record, Mike, of not going to Paulie's to watch VHS tapes. It's important to chase your dreams, Mike. It would be funny if someday I go to Paulie's to watch a movie, but we watch like a DVD or stream it.
All across central New York, it's the 315. Here's Brian Higgins.
All right, back at it here on this Monday. Phones available, 315-437-7644. If you'd like to partake on this Monday. The Red Sox are getting really hard to root for. What are they doing? What are they doing? Like, it began with a Mookie Betts trade, right? And I get that's 5 years ago now. And that he has 2 World Series and an MVP since then. Coming off a beloved start to his career in Boston with the Red Sox. And, I don't think many Red Sox fans will ever get over a trade like that because it was stupid at the time. It remains stupid 5 years later, and it will be stupid 50 years from now. There was never a reason to make it, and the whole thing was totally insane. You lock a guy up like that, you never let him leave the building. Now, then you kind of lose the bidding war, and you lose Xander Bogaerts, a year or two later, and he goes out to San Diego. And, that one sort of worked out from a Boston side, that he's not played great for Paulie's Padres. But then you eventually are like, all right, we got to give the money to somebody. Let's give the money to this Rafael Devers guy. He's hitting the ball at a clip for his age that few have done historically. It's like, okay, finally, they're like, all right, we got to pay this guy, and they pick a guy, and they pay him. And then, ever since you do that, you give the guy a 10-year deal, more than $300 million, which is a lot of money, but it's also the going rate. So what do you do in the offseason? You go get Bregman, Alex Bregman, who's been an excellent player for the Astros for a long time. He's a better defensive player than Devers and all that. But what do you do to your hometown, homegrown star? You tell him that he's the one that's going to have to change his position. Let's call the opposite of what the Yankees did with Rivera or with Jeter and A-Rod. Like, A-Rod, better shortstop defensively than Jeter. Everybody on the planet knew it. And they're like, Jeter's the shortstop. We'll figure you out. Now, the Red Sox did it the other way. And all they did was piss off the guy that they had just agreed to pay $300 million to. And then apparently, because of injuries and whatnot, they were needing a first baseman. So in the middle of the season, that they'd already pissed off the guy that they'd agreed to pay $300 million to, they say, hey, guy that we've already pissed off, that we've agreed to pay $300 million to, you just to check how pissed off you'll get, you want to try to learn how to play first base, even though you're not really that great of a fielder, and you've been DHing the whole season? You want to try to learn that? And he basically told them to, go pound sand. And then quickly was unloaded in a trade to the San Francisco Giants, who have been striking out on basically every free agent. They were trying to get Shohei. They were trying to get Judge. They were trying to get everybody for the last couple of years. Nobody wanted to take the Giants' money, so they orchestrated a trade and found somebody that now has to take their money because they've agreed to pick up the entirety of the Devers contract. Rafael Devers was still the Red Sox best hitter. You got some prospects that seemingly are, maybe you could have replaced him with a nice bag of balls and it would have been the same. What I don't understand here, from a Red Sox perspective, especially after the Mookie trade, is if you're going to be a major market team in a sport that does not have a salary cap, be a major market team. Spend your money. It's the whole... that's the whole thing. I just don't get how people are valuing things here. If you didn't value Mookie Betts, then you sign the other guy, and then you trade him. What are you doing? What future are you playing for? It makes absolutely no sense. Well, in the NBA, they don't know. The league seemingly doesn't know the value of anything right now. You've got supermax contracts. You've got a very punitive now salary cap that you can't go above too much, and then you got to trade your stars away. You've got stars who have a lot of leverage. Giannis, Durant, trying to direct where they're going to play the next part of your career. But then you have teams, you look at the Knicks last year, 5 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges. 5? Mikal Bridges is a very good player. 5 first-round picks? Over the weekend, the Orlando Magic, last heard from when Dwight Howard was there, the Magic have been irrelevant for a long time. They're apparently sick of it. So they decide to trade 4 first-round picks and a pick swap for Giannis, right? He's supposedly on the trade market potentially. If you're giving up 5 first-round picks, it's got to be for the best guy out there. It's literally the most amount of first-round picks you're allowed to trade. The most. For Desmond Bain? Like, Desmond Bain, pretty good player. 5 first-round picks. Like, if he's 5 first-round picks, what's Giannis worth? Like, the franchise? Like, I don't understand. Like, nobody seems to understand the value of what's going on with this. The value, the PR, anything that comes with it. So, I don't know. I don't know Desmond Bain from a hole in the wall. Like, he's a pretty good player for Memphis. Now he'll be a pretty good player for the Magic. He's worth 5 first-round picks? All right. It's just, you make these trades, you don't, and you make these moves, you don't understand. I get you're all trying to make your team better, but I don't think you always understand the reactions your fan base is going to have. Like, the Red Sox just traded their best player later in the afternoon after sweeping their biggest rival. They just swept the Yankees, finished the sweep, and then had a press conference for trading their best player away, who homered in the very game that he had just played in. Makes 0 sense. The Red Sox, who are currently a half game out of a playoff spot, who have won 5 in a row, 7 of 8, and 8 of 10, traded their best player for literally nobody that's going to help them win baseball games this year when they have a shot to make the playoffs. They're half game out of the playoffs right now. I realize that, we're in the everybody makes the playoffs age of Major League Baseball, but there's just so much of this stuff going on right now in sports that it's hard to figure out where it's coming from, and the money has gotten so weird that it's hard to figure out what teams are trying to do. Like, what are the Red Sox trying to do? They spent 20 years spending like drunk sailors and winning. And then they're like, well, that's enough winning. Wait, that's enough spending. There you go. And the Doncic trade from a few months ago. Like, what is with the trading away? Like, all right, Devers was pouty for a few weeks. They're like, well, we can't deal with this. Manny Ramirez was running around Boston for 15 years being Manny. You know what they did? They won a lot of baseball games. And Manny was nuts. And they won a lot of baseball games. Oh, Rafael Devers was annoyed for 2 months. Let's end our 10-year commitment to him that we made with lots of thought. That's enough. Let's get rid of him. That's too much. Get out of here. Just a lot of this. I don't get it. I don't get what the Red Sox plan is. You wonder what teams like the Magic or Memphis with trades like this. I don't know what the plan is. Well, meanwhile, Giannis is like, I think I might want to move somewhere. Somebody send them 5 picks. Like, go get freaking Giannis. Don't go get Desmond Bain. Somebody go get Giannis. How about that? How about trade for a guy like that? Then you'll be in good shape. I'll take a break. A little 411 after this. Jordan is back from vacation. We have located him. He is in the building. We'll move him over to this room next. Q Sports Talk and ESPN Radio.
This is...
Oh, man, he was so Manny. It was great. That's true, Ryan. If Bane was Bane. Like Desmond Bain, pretty good player. Like, he's good. Yeah, I don't get it, Tronic. Yeah, I saw that, Jen. Funny what happens when full boat tuition and board goes up to like more than 90 large a year. I guess it could be, Kev. I think a lot of it's, too, is a lot of their foreign students have been the ones that have been paying the full boat. And, probably hesitant to sign up to do that right about now. Well, yeah, I mean, that went in with the whole Pepsi Coke thing from last week, right? That's a fact, Jen. Should not cost you like $350,000+ to get a 4-year degree from Syracuse. That is kooky. It's the compounding interest effect of raising tuition. When you raise it 5% every year, it starts getting wacky. $2 for the chippies. It's a lot for Fritos. Yeah, how about that, Kev? And certainly a lot of six-figure money tied up in stuff like that, Jen.
All across CNY, it's the 315. Here's Brian Higgins.
All right, back at it here on this Monday. Glad to have you aboard as we get our week started right now.
Here's the 411.
Hello, and welcome to Movie Phone.
Oh, wait, you serious? Let me laugh even harder.
In the 315.
So you're going to be doing that all week, right?
Nah.
All right, what's going on is the 411 is brought to you by Superior Plus Propane. Welcome to the room, the returning from vacation, Jordan Capozzi.
Hello.
It's quite an entrance. What timing? Jordan's back from vacation. He's here. His headphones are tangled. Very tangled. Oh my goodness.
I give up.
This is an exotic tangle.
Doesn't matter.
I don't even know what happened here. I'm gonna unplug it for a sec. We're gonna untangle it this way.
Brian, I think you're off the air.
Oh, what?
Brian, I can't hear any.
I unplugged your headphones.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I plugged them back in.
Cool.
There we go. Yeah. I think that was a better end to untangle them from.
Yeah, that worked.
Yeah. What's up?
What is up, Brian?
Well,
what if I just spin this on you? Like, make you tell me? No, I've got something I want to talk about, and it's very on brand.
Is it hot dog related?
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
That's why I just assumed you'd bring this up, so I avoided it the whole show.
Well,
we did not communicate about this at all.
No, I appreciate that. Well, what's interesting is Joey Chestnut has been on a weird Syracuse run recently. Like the bowl game, he was supposed to pour mayo. What was it? No, it wasn't mayo. Whatever.
He was.
I'm already forgetting what bowl game they were in, which is bad.
They were in the Holiday Bowl.
He was supposed to pour something on somebody, but then like Dan Villari supposedly got an NIL deal to do it, and then Fran.
What was it? Why was Joey Chestnut involved? Yeah, Dan Villari.
I don't know, but he was.
But it was a Gatorade. Was it just the Gatorade?
I don't know, but he did that, and then he was at like a Syracuse Mets game doing boneless wings.
Well, and then it got delayed, and he had to do another. Yeah.
So Joey Chestnut is all but a Syracuse legend now, and now he's going to be back in the hot dog eating contest, which. This begs the question, Brian. This is the big one. Is Joey Chestnut leaving and then coming back way more interesting than if he had just kept doing the hot dog eating contest?
Oh, 100%.
Like, I think this is kind of genius. It worked out way better than it could have. See, thank you, Tim. I have more questions now than I did before I found out it was eggnog.
It was a Holiday Bowl.
Okay.
I guess. It's a holiday beverage.
Nothing says eggnog like Snapdragon Stadium, right?
Yeah. San Diego, the eggnog capital of the... No, it just doesn't...
I was in San Diego in January 1. You just knocked something over. I was in San Diego in January once.
Oh, boy.
And I was sweating through my jacket. Like, if you're drinking eggnog there, you're kind of insane. Yeah. I can't imagine eggnog on a 60-degree day.
No, nog is not a warm weather beverage.
I would be livid if I just completed a full-length athletic competition and then had eggnog dumped on me. That is disgusting.
Which is how Fran, clearly paid off Villari and avoided the whole situation.
But, yeah, I think this worked out very well. That little side mission Joey Chestnut did with the drama, and then they were doing, like, that Netflix special.
Yeah, he created, like, he missed one, and he got a whole Netflix paycheck to... go one-on-one with Kobayashi for hot dogs.
It's
on
really
a different holiday. He's like, you know what we could do on Labor Day? Eat hot dogs. People are like, what?
What they've been having to do to keep the hot dog competition alive is kind of crazy. Like, remember a few years ago they had Matt Stoney, that YouTube eater, come in just so there was another name people had heard of. Because, believe it or not, it's hard to develop talent just based on eating a lot. And then Joey leaves and comes back, and... I mean, they're really trying to keep the hot dog eating contest alive. And
I don't even know who won the contest last year. Was it Stoney?
I don't even think he was in it.
I don't know.
But now I'm going to know this year because Joey Chestnut's
they're going to lose to Joey Chestnut.
Maybe. I don't know, dude. Like, Joey's been slowing down.
Has he?
A little bit. I mean, he's not getting close to the records. Like,
no.
Because when he was doing the competitions, it wasn't, is he going to win? It's, can he beat his own record? Right. He wasn't really coming that close, if we're being honest.
No, not recently.
He was doing his thing.
But he was still just crushing everybody else mercilessly.
But maybe now it's been long enough to where somebody can dethrone him.
Yes. Is he going to come back a year removed, like refreshed and revitalized, or will he now be slower and his jaw won't chew as fast?
I don't know if you refresh and revitalize for competitive eating.
No. It's a wonder he hasn't just because he's still kind of, I mean, he's older, but he hasn't gotten I realize they're not keeping it with him the whole time, but he's not like he's gotten like super fat or anything from all the hot dogs and chicken pieces and everything else he's consumed in vast quantities.
Good on him. More baseball news, say, if you want to get mad about Devers a little bit more.
Okay.
It feels like an extra slap in the face the day after the Rafael Devers to the Giants trade.
Yes.
The Yankees have activated Giancarlo Stanton, and he will now make his season debut against the Angels. Tim Leonard will have more on Yankees on deck.
Okay, so just to check, the Red Sox swept the Yankees. Their DH in the last game of the series hit a home run. Then the game ended, and the Red Sox were like, we're going to trade him as far away as humanly possible. And then the next day, the Yankees activated their DH, who may or may not have had double tennis elbow from torpedo bats, but had an awesome postseason last year, and he's back.
Feels like an extra slap in the face. But I was talking about this with Tim. Like, How much do you care? You seem to a little bit, but how much do you really care about making the playoffs if you're not going to win a championship?
I mean, you'd rather be in it than not.
Baseball is one of them where I don't think
weird.
You
There's
care
just so
all
many
that.
teams now.
You don't care as much about tanking unless you just have terrible ownership and would rather permanently tank, which, we've seen some teams do, and it's really funny to watch.
Like, baseball, like, I get there's big-time prospects and whatever, and obviously, you look at the Skeens and whatnot, but there's such a gap generally from if you actually tank and get a top player to when you see that player, you kind of forget that you tanked to get him in the first place. So it's like, no, I'm not just go, especially if you're the freaking Red Sox, go win some games. You're the Red Sox. Like, what's, like, you spent 100 years not
Fenway
winning.
Sports Group, Brian.
Yeah. Something. They won the Premier League? Did they? Did Liverpool win? I don't know.
You're asking all the questions. This is a Paul special.
I think they won the Premier League.
This is a Paul special.
They got car racing?
That sounds about right.
Yeah. They got that? It's the green and Andretti green, isn't it? From the Monster?
Sure.
I think that's right.
You've been getting into which finals do you care more about lately? Something that has been baffling to me, and I think it speaks more to what I've been saying, what everybody's been saying, but it's really started to make me mad in recent months, is if you don't win a championship, you just need to blow up everything and change.
I don't like it.
But now the Oilers, after we saw goalie drama in their last series with the Stars, now the Oilers, they've been not wanting to name their goalie as they go in. It's 3-2. Like, it's not like they're blowing it. 3 of the games have gone to overtime. Yeah, they've had a couple of stinkers. That's the problem. Like, when the Panthers are winning, it's stinkers. The Oilers are squeaking them out in OT. But how do you feel about the old, there's 2 games left in the season. Let's start moving goalies around.
Stanley Cup Game 6. Who is our goalie going to be?
And can I also say, maybe I don't understand it as much, but in certain sports, it's like, oh, is this guy going to play? Is this guy not? Like, this could make an impact. I understand that some goalies are better with certain types of shots. Like, I know McCool and Ippoliti had different styles this year for Syracuse, and maybe that's a little wrinkle that you could throw out there, which you don't, because Jimmy McCool is great. But with hockey goalies, like, how much of an edge are you really getting by saying, you don't know which guy you're going to face?
It's like, are you the one that stops the pucks or the one that doesn't stop the pucks? Like, keep the puck out of the net.
I just think it's really goofy, and maybe it's happened in past years, but I don't think teams were doing this where the end of the series, it's like, might have to switch the goalie. That's all we got. Like, why don't you ride with the dude who got you the Stanley Cup Finals?
How about maybe they can throw a wrinkle and say, you know what we need in goal? The best player in the sport, Connor McDavid for goalie.
Stephen A. Smith would agree. He wasn't scoring enough goals for Stephen A. Smith's liking. Did you see that comment when he was like, he's got 13 shots, no goals. At what point are we going to judge him like a star? It's like, Stephen A., come on. What did you think about the solitaire thing? I probably should have led with that for the 4-1-1.
I'd say of things Stephen A. did this weekend, that's the only one I saw. So, yeah, like what?
Do you think that's a big deal?
Like, no, I don't think it's a big deal, but I just think you're that bored at the NBA Finals that of all things you're playing solitaire?
I might have seen the video wrong, but here's what it looked like. Yes, the solitaire game was open while play was happening. I didn't see him actually playing. I think he had the game open, and during timeouts he was playing, which maybe that's how he keeps his mind sharp, like, and he doesn't, rest. I don't know, but
solitaire?
The problem is when you're in something like media where it's so hard to break in, someone like Stephen A. Smith does something like that, and immediately every single 22 to 34-year-old person who hasn't broken into the field yet is tweeting like, there are so many of us who want jobs, and this guy is taking them to play solitaire, and writers are getting laid off, and this guy's playing solitaire, and then it just starts a little goofy movement because people are angry.
I just think it's a weird choice of game to play in your board time at the finals.
Who plays solitaire anymore? It's 2025.
I'm just confused with the solitaire. Like, you're playing solitaire? You got a phone, it's got every app in existence on it, and you picked solitaire?
Well, that's why I'm theorizing that he does it to keep his mind sharp.
Well,
like
I know,
during
but of
timeouts.
all the things, there's every app in the world. There's a lot better mind sharpening apps than solitaire. You can play a word game or one of those number games. I mean, like, there's a lot of the get the words and pick the words out. Like, he's a man that works with words. Play one of the word games. He might come up with some kooky word to use during the post-game show. It's just a weird choice of game.
It is bananas to me that people are still.
He's like, where does the ace go?
Playing solitaire.
Yeah. You know why people played solitaire? Because it was the game that got loaded on to Windows 3.1.
It was like that Space Cadet pinball or whatever. Like, nobody was actually playing that game because they love computer pinball. It was just on there, and it was free.
That said, free ski was kind of elite. Like the
never heard of it.
It was the
no.
abominable small man would chase you down the mountain by the end.
No,
you could never get away. Yeah.
Last thing I have for you.
They've made better games since.
They
then.
definitely have. Angel Reese has trademarked Me Bounds. She was getting called out on social media for grabbing Me Bounds. It's when you miss and grab the ball. She tends to do that an awful lot. But she went on this kind of video rant and was like, whoever said this, good for you. That's a brand. I'm going to get a bag off that. And she just trademarked it. Do you respect her trying to make a little bit of money off of something that's clearly making fun of her? And also, like, Me Bounds, I just don't really see how that's a brand. Like, what is Me Bounds? It's
don't
not
know.
good.
No.
I don't think it's a good brand.
But that said, I do respect her for going for it. You know, winners get washed.
Like, I don't like filing for an LLC or whatever she has to do, or getting the trademark, like all that stuff. I just don't know how you make your money back on a brand called Me Bounds.
I don't know. Like, I don't know how many people are buying are all
Nobody.
the Chicago Fire fans buying Me Bounds gear? Chicago Sky, the Fire fans. That would be weird because that's the soccer team.
Yeah, no, it's the Club World Cup season now, so I get why you're confused.
I've been all locked in on Club World Cup.
Yeah.
I heard somebody was upset about the pitch at MetLife.
I didn't hear that.
I just saw a headline. That's all I've heard of it.
Okay.
I'm like, oh, somebody's upset about the MetLife field and it's not football season.
That tends to happen.
Okay.
Yeah, I just think the whole thing is really goofy. Like, I understand, like, good on you for capitalizing it, but one, it's not that big of a thing. Like, not everybody's saying Me Bounds. Like, I feel like
That's
I
the
have
first
to
time
explain
I've ever heard the word said in that order.
Two, it's something where it's not cool. Like, just think of every brand that you could possibly have, and it's either, like, ambiguous or cool, mysterious, something. Me Bounds is just, like, what? Unless you're going to sell, like, a self-rebounding one of those things.
Like one of the pass-back things so you could work on your shooting.
Yeah, but
it wouldn't pass it back because in a Me Bound you've missed.
Well, she should buy that.
She needs to make the one, they don't pass back the makes, they pass back the misses. That's Angel. You're welcome.
This might work because imagine how viral she could go if they actually made one of those. And, you know, she's known for not being the best with her shooting. Force inside, great defensively, not the best shooting. If she posts viral videos of her practicing her shooting with the Me Bounds self-rebounder, that would go so viral.
Yeah.
And then people might actually buy that.
Now you need a t-shirt and a hat and socks and shorts. You need the whole shoes.
Slides?
Slides.
Slides are the entryway, I feel like. They're always the cheapest. They're terribly made, but they have the logo on them.
Yeah, I mean, you need the whole Me Bounding kit. Yeah, you're welcome, Angel. We've solved this whole marketing thing. It's no longer just a T-shirt and a copyright and a nickname. I don't know how to make a self-rebounder for missed shots. That's going to pass. How you do that?
I mean, that could be for makes, but...
Well, those already exist.
Not Me Bounds brand ones.
She needs to make one for misses. Because that's what she's doing.
Okay.
Missing. And then getting the rebound. The makes are like, nah. Once the ball goes in, you don't need a Me Bound. It's the other team's ball by that point.
But then you're just lazy. If you want to self-rebound on a miss, you just go chase the ball at that point.
Well, that's where you have to work out the genius of the marketing. That's where the MeBound branding and the Angel Reeseness of it all comes in.
Well, they need a little bit more branding. I respect her, trying to turn negative into a positive. I just don't think it works as a brand. But she could prove me wrong.
You know what she needs? She needs to bring on Caitlin Clark as a secret investor. So nobody knows Caitlin's involved in it, to just really trash it on the other side. So then they need to be like secret allies in the MeBounce.
That would be incredible.
And then just like years later, you're going to find on like page 28 of the LLC document, Caitlin Clark. What? And they'll both be on some island in like Aruba just laughing and counting their MeBounce money.
Good for them. Clark returned, by the way, and just went off. She had like 3 threes in 30-something seconds and handed the Liberty their first loss.
She had 25 at halftime.
There's a reason Caitlin Clark gets all this attention.
That's what I'm saying.
She returns, comes back, immediately beats an undefeated team, stars. It was incredible. It wasn't like Ionescu or Stewart or any of them played exceptionally bad. Caitlin Clark just did that whole thing that she tends to do.
Yeah, Caitlin Clark doesn't get MeBounce because her shots go in.
She gets mates.
Yeah. I mean, she also did have a ton of triple doubles in college, but those are other people's misses that she was rebounding.
MeBounce.
All right, I'm gonna go secretly invest in MeBounce. I got to get Caitlin Clark on the line. We got a lot of work to do, Jordan. All right, there we are. There is the 411. But what, in fact, might be on tap?
Here's what's on tap tonight.
Well, it's on tap tonight, so we should probably turn up the volume loud enough that we can hear it being poured in. What is on tap tonight? The Yankees are on tap tonight. Tim Leonard is on tap tonight because Yankees on Deck is on tap tonight. Coming up next, Yanks Angels 7:05 in the Bronx, kicking off a 3-game slate. I believe we have Yankees on Deck 4 out of 5 days this week. Which day don't we have it? Stay tuned. It'll be it's either Wednesday or Thursday. I forget. It's probably Wednesday. It's Thursday. All right. Jordan has silently communicated with me through a series of subtle nods. Thursday, there's no Yankees on deck. That means Tim will be here on deck today, tomorrow, Wednesday, Friday. What else do we got on tap? NBA Finals is on tap tonight as well. Pre-game coverage of that will start half an hour after Yankees on Deck concludes, which means 7:30 this evening. What's on tap for the show tomorrow? Wouldn't you like to know? We got a lot of things out there in the pond. I'll tell you this: we'll continue our 12 games in 12 weeks preview of the Syracuse football season on Wednesday with Tim Beret from Clemson, who is also just at the U.S. Open working for NBC, so we can golf a little with Tim on Wednesday, too. So a good dual-purpose visit with our guy, Tim Beret from the Clemson radio network. And as mentioned earlier, Reggie Thorpe's intro press conference is Wednesday. Hopefully we'll get Reggie on the program sometime later this week. With that, that's going to wrap things up for the day. I'm back with you tomorrow right here, 4 o'clock on Q Sports Talk and ESPN Radio.